Welcome to Virtual Realms. I'm Ranger 1. Last episode, I had a few questions come in about my security patrol. The Dimorphodons that I have flying throughout the area, following a set pattern, providing security for my tames. And people were asking me, how'd you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. There's a mod out there called the DINO Patrol System. It's a mod that allows you to craft for just a small amount of resources to craft a flag that will act as a waypoint. And from that first flag, you can create other flags that serve as additional waypoints. Using those flags, you can lay out a route like a race course and tell your dinos to follow them. It's kind of cool. You can, of course, set whatever settings you want as far as put them on aggressive or attack your target or whatever you like, and they'll follow that behavior normally. If they were on aggressive, for example, they would attack whatever came near them, but then they would return to the route when they were done. Pretty handy. Well, let me show you how it works. I've already crafted up some of the start flags. We just need one. Let me show you how this is done. Okay, I've got it in my hotbar. Pressing E places it, and as you can see, it predominantly says start right in front of your face. We can add additional waypoints from the radial menu that comes up. We could, if we were midway through the route, insert another waypoint. That only becomes necessary if you mess up and you want to change a waypoint. Then it's kind of handy. We can also change the appearance of this. Once we get it laid out, we could change the waypoints to look like a stone, so they're inobtrusive, or a flower, or a mushroom, or whatever works. But we're going to leave them as flags so that it's easier to see right now. We can also set anywhere on our route that we're going to set up. We can set a flag to be a permanent stop. So if you were setting up a race course, you could have the dinos run the course and then stop at the end. And as your dinosaurs hit each flag, they pause about a half a second. You can change how long they pause at each flag and make it a significant amount of time, up to 5 minutes, if you needed to for whatever reason. We can also rename this to whatever we want. We can, of course, pick up the flag. That's handy if you don't like your route, you just want to get rid of the whole thing. Pick up your start flag. Just remember where you put it. And, of course, we can demolish it. And there's an option to show route, which we're going to use here in just a moment. Right now, we're going to add a waypoint. You can do that just by clicking E on the flag as well, which is what I just did. And let's come over here. Got to get a little ways away. All right, let's place our second flag here. It's actually flag number 1, the start point, of course, being the original. And I'm going to show you the route. And let's leave that up for right now. Now that's showing arrows going back and forth between these two flags because that's all that we have set up so far. Any dino that you have in the very close proximity of the start flag, any of your tames, will give you this option to either start patrolling or to remove it from the route. We're going to start patrolling and give it just a second to think, and then there she goes, following the route unfailingly back and forth until you tell them to stop to the best of their ability. It's just like it's following you. So if an obstacle is in the way, it will attempt to find a way around within the limits of its ability. Its behavior is just like being on follow. And as long as you keep that in mind, it simplifies everything. Let's go over here to the first flag. We're going to click E on it, and it gives us our next flag in the route. Let's come over here. We'll place it there. You see how the route changed? Now we have a triangle that our little bird is going to follow. And before our Archaeopteryx gets here, we're going to click E on it again, and we're going to add one more. Let's put it right here. There we go. Now she's going to follow all the way over here and do whatever she has to try and follow this route. You'll have to forgive the thunderous stomping in the background. I've got a young Bronto down there that hasn't made its way out of the nursery area yet. Soon enough, that one will find its way on out into the rest of the habitat. Alright, are you ready? You're kind of slow, you know. You don't care, do you? Alright. And of course, having come to the last flag in the route, she'll turn and start heading back toward the original flag. Now, you'll notice that Archaeopteryx is not going to be able to get directly to that flag, but again, just as normal, it's going to try and get to it just like it would if it were following you. In this case, its limited AI is not going to be able to find a way this far to come all the way up and around. So this route would not work very well for us. If this were perhaps a larger creature, it would pace back and forth like normal and eventually find its way around. But this little birdie's not going to do that for us. So I would need to change my route. Let me show you. Here's the Insert Waypoint function. One way to do this is to click Insert Waypoint, and you'll have another flag. Let's put it, let's say right here. Oh, we're too close. How about over here? There we go. Now we have changed our route. That doesn't help us a whole lot right now until we get rid of this. And demolish. Now we've got a slightly different route. I don't know if that's gonna be quite good enough to get her up there or not, but we're gonna find out. Let's pick her up. Put her back down. Let her get started again. I could call her to me and that would kick her out of the route because then she's following something else besides this route. But it's easy enough to just click Start Follow Route and she'd go back at it again. Now I've noticed that they pause a variable amount of time, anywhere from a half a second to maybe 3 seconds of these flags, which adds a little variety in the route, and I kind of like that because that makes it seem less like a bunch of machines marching along a set path. The dinos, if you have more than one following the same route, they'll space out differently and proceed at different rates because of the variable length of that pause. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but, well, I think it's a nice touch if it was. We may not have changed this route far enough for her to make it up, but, well, it's a good test, and you just saw how to insert a waypoint. And that really was the whole point. Is she going to make it? Can you do it? Yes, perfect. There we go. All right. And she will continue until we tell her to stop. Or until something kills her. Whichever comes first. I've had to do this video a couple of different times. I keep discovering things that I've overlooked. And this is something that Grebog, the mod author, has added that I actually requested myself. If you set up a route for a creature, well, let's go ahead and do that real quick. And you use that pause feature that I mentioned before, where you click on it and you set a pause timer. Now, if you leave it at that, you can set that pause timer for whatever you want, in this case 10 seconds. But if you click E again, you now have a new option, Enable Wandering. And what that means is, if your creature is on Wandering, set in its own settings to be on Wander, it will follow its route just like normal. But when it gets over to the flag that is set for Wandering, it'll kick out of following its preferred flight path, if you will, and it will wander for that many seconds. And then when the time is up, it will go back to following its route again. Now, as you can see, she's approaching it. The little following node message has gone away. That means that when she gets there, she's going to wander for 10 seconds, which is very cool. And now it's kicked back on, and here in just a moment, she's going to change her path and go back to her next waypoint. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to use the heck out of this. This allows you a lot of options. You could set up a migration route, or you could set up some very natural looking security patrols for your guardian dinos. It all depends on what you want to do with it. But I think that is an excellent, excellent touch. I would use a little bit of caution. If you go changing these settings around a lot, you may find out that you you mess things up a little bit and you have to redo at least part of your route. So be very careful in determining where you want to put those wander points. I would suggest putting them somewhere near the center of your route. You just don't want any of your dinos that may be perhaps particularly fast movers. You don't want them to wander out of render range of the next flag. That could cause some issues. This process using the Dino Patrol system works equally well for airborne dinosaurs and creatures of all types. The Dimorphodons have pretty much removed my need for turrets in the area. They simply fly their pattern, and I have them swoop down with the waypoints low enough to where they're within easy aggro range of most of my breeding tames. They're helpless when they're tied up to hitching posts, and the Dimorphodons kill anything that attacks them, which is kind of nice. I prefer that to having a bunch of turrets stuck all over my base. It's pretty handy, and it works equally well for aquatic dinosaurs as well. Just make sure that all of your flags are underwater, and anything you want to put in there that's a tame of yours will follow that path just like any other creature. Pretty nifty. It's getting on toward evening, and I turned on Show All Routes just to show you how the patterns of travel are laid out around my base. The red line is the path the flyers take back and forth. It's randomized, and I think it makes it look a lot cooler. And the green lines down below, well, those are the paths that my sea creatures can take back and forth across the lake. All in all, I think I've got pretty good coverage here, and it just looks right. This is actually kind of pretty as it gets dark. If only laying out my Christmas lights on the house were this easy. So that pretty much wraps it up. What other questions might you have? Oh, if you happen to leave your flags within render range. If you have flags that are out of render range, your creatures will stop whenever they leave render range. Now, if you walk in that direction again, they usually, sometimes they glitch, but usually they'll start following the route again, but they can get real annoying real fast. Likewise, if you have all your flags in a given area within render range and you leave render range, they just go into stasis like everything else, and when you come back, they start following their route just as if you'd never left. So there you go. This has proven to be fairly effective, especially using it with mammoths up in my Kamaka Ice Lake Lodge area. The mammoth wanders around, and wolf packs that may spawn in will swarm and attack the mammoth and get killed. And then, once the mammoth is done fighting, unless it's wandered over the edge of the plateau up there, the mammoth will return back to its route and continue on, as if nothing had occurred. I hope you find this handy. I thought it was kind of interesting. And since the sun's going down, it's time to draw this video to a close. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe, and perhaps tell a few thousand of your closest friends. And until I see you again, good hunting.